You guys good?
Coach, late game, Mac said he just wants to slow it down and not do anything different with the offense. It sort of looked against Virginia as a little conservative there at the end. Did y'all see something that you could take advantage of with Virginia, or just wanted to be protected? What was the...
Oh yeah, we wanted to be careful because they run, in that scenario, they run double edge pressure. You know, they've got eight up around the box, and they're running double edge pressure. So if you don't protect the edges, they have a free runner. And so that's just was one of the concerns going into the game, that that's what they do. Really, when you're in that kind of scenario from a defensive standpoint, you're gonna cut some people loose and tee off a little bit, because they know we don't want to air the ball out, right? We don't want to put the ball in jeopardy, and they're going to take more chances defensively and commit more people, because they're looking for the TFL or the open hit to create a fumble, you know, that kind of thing, because they do want the ball back. So 4 minutes is probably, in my opinion, outside of third down is obviously much more difficult, but 4 minutes is a tough deal. I do like being able to stay in what we do. But there's just some teams that present some issues, and you've got to be careful about, you know, letting guys run free in your backfield. So that was just a concern against Virginia, because they have a nice little package there.
Drake said that he had that run that he had, they went out of bounds at the 2-yard line when Copenhagen was blocking in front of him. He said that he thought for a split second about leaping in the end zone, but didn't. He said he didn't think he could get over Copenhagen. Is that an example of his instincts changing during the course of the season? And how difficult is it for a guy
I
to change
think, like, he did the same thing at Duke. You know, he got down about the 2 or the 3, and he went out. You know, the biggest issue is he wants to get better. You actually get better there. Unless that's fourth down, you got to win the game, and it's the end of the deal. We're going to live to play another play. I mean, he had, other than the one touchdown jump that he had, we really haven't benefited from the others. You know what I mean? And so, again, he puts himself in a position to take a hit. He puts himself in a position to fumble. And we do those two things with really no reward on the other end, because all we gained on the 2 jumps beyond the one that scored was a yard. It's not worth putting the ball in jeopardy. So he did a good job at Duke, and it just, I think we're beyond concerned with being worried about that now. He's managing those situations better, and we're protecting the ball. It's been, you know, 2 weeks without a turnover now with the offense, and I think a lot of that has been his emphasis on how he handles the football.
Josh Downs, I mean, what can you say about him after that game? Probably one of his best games, Star Hill.
Well,
anything stand out differently, or that he did differently?
It was one of his best in terms of how much he impacted the game. There's no question. I mean, you know, we asked him to go downtown. He did that. We asked him to catch the intermediate stuff. He did a great job with that stuff. We asked him to catch the balls underneath where, you know, we wanted to use his twitch and his athleticism. He did that stuff. He had a heck of a block on the perimeter when we threw DJ Jones the swing screen. I think if he doesn't make that block, you know, we got a great effort by DJ, but if he doesn't make that block, it probably doesn't keep the drive alive on third down. So he just, he said he's going to be ready, and he was, and hopefully that continues for the next 3 weeks.
Is his polish and ability to get open as a route runner, is one of the best guys you've coached? I know you had some really good receivers at Ole Miss.
Yeah, he's just so sudden, and he can change speeds, and you know, he's really instinctive. And earlier in the season, we were trying to reel him in a little bit. It was kind of like reeling in Drake's mobility in the pocket. It was too much, you know, and sometimes it would get us in trouble. And, you know, he senses people around him, and he's so instinctive. He does a really good job of knowing where the grass is and knowing where defenders are. And so it's his just competitive instincts to want to pull up or to stop or to change direction and create separation from the defender. And earlier in the year, there weren't many, but there were some plays, you know, where the way they're designed, you can't do that, right? Because his route, if it's covered, needs to stay covered so we can hit the next guy. You know, it's helping that next route in the progression. And we've kind of, he's also a guy that wants to get better every week, and he listens. And so now he knows when he can ad lib, and he's got some freedom. And we're trying to put him in positions, Ross, where he doesn't have to worry about staying on track, where he can, you know, create a little bit. But I think he's done a good job of understanding when his route helps him better also. And Saturday easily was probably one of his best games.
On that, to follow up on that, I mean, Drake and Josh's chemistry is, I mean, Drake has to know where he's going. Have you seen that from a quarterback receiver duo you've coached over the years, the amount of, they are on the same plane, they're on the same page, nearly every time?
Well, the whole offense in the passing game is really based that way. There's, you know, there aren't, it's not as strict with regards to prescribed drops and strike points on routes and specific landmarks on the field. That's not the world we're living in the passing game. In the passing game, we have to create separation in man coverage, and we do that a bunch of different ways. But in zone coverage, regardless of where you drop your 7 or your 8, there's grass somewhere. And so what we teach our guys is to be a little bit more instinctive, and so they will naturally throttle in open areas or speed up to beat a zone defender that's working our way. We can elevate on certain routes. They can drop it short on certain routes. So those are things that we teach from day one that we've been doing here for 4 years. So the quarterback, and I think I heard Drake say this in the press conference, usually when he's throwing to a receiver, he's not just open, he's really open. You know, like when we go through our progression, we've got guys open on most plays. I thought we talked about how we graded the game yesterday with the quarterbacks. There were 2 pass plays that Virginia just flat out covered. And they did a great job. There are 2 in the entire game that they covered everybody. You know, that's pretty typical. You know, we pretty much, if you stay on point and stay on time in our progression, you're going to find the open one. And I think our guys, you have to, that's a compliment to the receivers because they're the ones that are negotiating this grass that we talk about in zone coverage. And they're doing a good job of presenting themselves, and Drake has done a good job on time of getting the ball.
Phil, both Josh and Drake talked after the game on Josh's touchdown reception, that play wasn't supposed to go to him initially, but they read the coverage, and it was the 19-yard.
The corner route to Josh Downs?
Yes.
So that's a unique play that was actually, we kind of schemed it for this team, and there's an aspect of that play that is really what we want to do and where we want to direct the ball if it's zone coverage. And in the event that we get man coverage down there, then we have this matchup. And in this particular play, the matchup was Josh Downs on the corner route. So we got man coverage. It took away the zone design, but the route that was in the play was designed for man, and so Josh ran a very good route. He did not allow the defender's depth to dictate where we broke the corner. He actually worked his stem beyond the defender, stuck it about 2 yards behind the defender, and then broke on the corner. And it really, that doesn't mean much to you maybe, but it made the throw a lot easier. It made the angle for the corner route a lot better. And it's just a little thing that people wouldn't know is really, really important on a route like that, but it is. And so it's a compliment to Josh that he had the discipline to do it, and it gave Drake a better target. And so they showed us man, we threw the man route, and it resulted positively for us, obviously.
The flip side of that is, when would you say in the process did you develop that trust with Drake to kind of be able to make that read, you know, pre-snap and know that, okay, Josh has got this single coverage on this play, and this is where the ball should go?
It's a day one thing for us. I mean, that's philosophically how we run the passing game. So, you know, those things with regards to each play that we run, hey, if they're running zone coverage, here's our progression. If they're in man, sometimes that progression stays the same with some of our concepts, and sometimes you have some things that are more well equipped to attack man that are built into the play. And so at a quarterback position in this offense, you have to know what those routes are, and you're going to trigger those instead of the zone beaters. And so that just happened to be an example of one of those plays.
Phil, the over-under on this game against Wake is bananas. It's like approaching 80. I mean, when the other team has powerful offense as Wake has, regardless of how the last 2 weeks have gone, how much does that affect your your game script, your game plan?
Not much. I mean, this is a completely different defense coordinator, different scheme, same players, but they're doing some very different things than they have in the past. There's a little bit of overlap and continuity with Coach Cohen and the things that they do on the D-line, but from a coverage standpoint, a run fit standpoint, situationally what they do, it's all very, very different. The pass really, for me, from a personal standpoint, game planning really has no bearing on, even if it was the same team, I very rarely look back at the notes from last year, because even if it's the same defensive coordinator, they're, if it's a good coach, they're playing to their strengths, which change every year. Like when we played Pittsburgh, nothing changed, right? Because he's going to consistently do what they do. And I said that we just have to execute better. This week, we're planning for a completely different Wake Forest defense than we have in the last 2 years. It presents different problems. They still have the same strengths from a personnel standpoint. And so we're just studying what Wake does this year and how they do it, just like we do any other week. And, we've got to make some good decisions about how we're going to attack it.
Hey, Coach, have any players or numbers stood out to you on Wake's defense? They got some bodies on the D-line. They look pretty good.
Yeah, you always ask me this, guys. I think that one is a really good player, and he's coming back, right? You want names, you might look at the roster, because I'm not going to give them to you. Zero is a good ball player. The D-line, this is one of the more physical. They remind me a lot of the Pittsburgh front. They're really physical. They're really strong. They're rangy at the DN spot. Tackles, though, there's a couple 6-footers that are 280, 290. They're super strong. They're physical. They get off blocks well. I think the secondary is similar also to Pittsburgh. They've got, one is coming back. He's really good. They've got number 3 is an excellent player. Okay, 3 is absurd. I mean, he can track ground, and he and Zero are the ones that stand out to me the most, really. We've been watching them all morning, and I think those are the 2 that pop to me right now. I think Wake is, like they have been, they're very well coached, and they're just physical, and I think the battle that we have this week is very similar to that of, the way we faced Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago.
What does Elijah Green bring differently to your offense? What is he adding to it?
Oh, I said this last week, Ross. I think he's very decisive in terms of making a decision and finding a little crease. So just the smallest of creases is inviting to him, and he's going to kick it into 5th gear and hit it downhill. And he's got low pad level, and he's got high knees, and he's just physical. And I think he's hard to take on if you're the first engager. And he doesn't have a lot of moves, but he plays downhill, and he does it with speed. He doesn't really try to make too many lateral cuts. That's not his specialty, and he doesn't call on that stuff too much. He's got a great spin move, and I think he's just hard to tackle when you're the first engager. And so I just like how downhill he plays. I love his speed. Speed kills. We all say that. It's true. And I think in his case, it really lends to why he's such a good running back. There's no fear when he hits the holes. And I think he's he's potentially a guy that can take an 80 at any time if, he can break the line of scrimmage and make a move on a second-level defender. He can go because he has that kind of speed.
It's pretty clear your running back room has been pared down now after what we saw against.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, they're all so close that when a guy has a really good week or his talents fit the team we're playing, that's kind of how we go through the guys that are in the gray area with each other. And Elijah has just kind of separated them. First it was Caleb. Caleb got hurt. Elijah has been given an opportunity to separate himself a little bit. He got 66 reps on Sunday, and so we obviously trust him. And he's done a good job catching the football, and that was never his strength when he first got here. And, one of his touchdowns Saturday was a reception. So we're fine, and we feel great about Elijah, and we feel good about the other running backs. And I think you're going to see a mix of all of them as the season goes on, with Elijah being the lead dog right now.
Phil, as a play caller, like, I'm sure, like, during the game, you're just obviously completely locked into the next play and how you make a first down and all that. Like, when you get away from it after the game and you actually look at the numbers, were you surprised to see that Josh got that many got targeted that many times, he got that many catches? Like, did you think it was, the numbers were piling up like they did, or were you not surprised?
I'm not surprised because when you want to get, there are plays in the offense that we just want Drake to progress through and distribute to the open guy, period. And then there are some things that we do where I go back to our touches list, where we're trying to get Antoine Green the football, we're trying to get Josh Downs the football, we're trying to get somebody the ball, Bryson Nesbitt or Cope or Kamar, whatever it is, right? So because we think that those guys may get single coverage, or they may get softer coverage, or they may get some sort of advantageous situation where we want to target the ball to them. And Josh, it was evident that they were struggling with Josh. Didn't do a good job covering him or staying with him. And so, I called more to him. And the other thing is we rely so much on receiver feedback during the game. I'll ask Antoine and JJ and those guys, how is he playing it? What do you got in your route tree? And then we'll work it. And Josh provides the same feedback. The tight end, same thing. So as you learn as a coach, which guys, we always tell them, look, don't tell me you can get open. And don't tell me you're open on every play. I don't want to hear that. What I want to hear is educated feedback on what they're doing and what they're giving you on a regular basis. And when we get that, and you can trust them, and these guys have been here a while now. We've been doing this for a while. So Galloway will give me some feedback. Porter gives me feedback. Coach Lilly gives me feedback. Big Nell's doing it up front. But the biggest thing is that players know what they can get out there. Hey, look, can we win on the deep ball post? Coach, no. All they do, they turn it and run, and they're playing soft. They're playing inside leverage, fine. What do you got? And then they talk to me about what they have. And so, I call it accordingly. Because some of it is about scheme and some of it is about their athletic ability. And I think they have the best seat in the house out there. So if we're getting legitimate, knowledgeable feedback, then I'm going to take it every time if I can. And Drake is a big part of that feedback also.
So no, when you looked at the numbers, you were like, that's not right.
It's happened before. I mean, A.J. Brown had a number of 13, 14, 15 catch games. I don't sit there and worry about what the stats are. I knew he was catching a bunch of balls. I knew we were targeting him with the football, but in terms of knowing where and how many yards and all that stuff, I had no clue.
Right.
I had no clue Antoine had as big a game. I knew he had a big game last week against Pittsburgh because of the 2 touchdown catches and some of the big catches he made, but I had no idea what the catches or the numbers were, nor did I care at the time, as long as our guys are executing. And at that moment, you're just trying to scheme to win the game, and then you can go enjoy the numbers afterwards.
The offensive line seems like, especially Austin Richards, been playing really well this season. I wonder if you've seen that from him on tape. His PFF stats are pretty incredible.
So I don't see those. I don't pay attention. I don't have time to look at the PFF. No, I really don't. But
Fine.
I know. What I do know is the feedback that comes from Coach McNell with regards to how our guys are playing. Like Spencer Rowan had a really good, solid game last week and the week before. So here's a guy that we felt like needed to improve on some things, and he's gotten better every single week, all season. And so now we feel as stable and as solid with him and his play as we do with Austin. And Austin, we knew coming in, was a guy that as long as he kept getting better, because he had a decent season last year. He had some things he needed to get better on. He really worked on those in the spring, came back in the fall, and he's a better product right now than he was last year. And so we feel really, really comfortable and confident with both tackles. And it's not that the guys in the Corey Gaynor has given us some great leadership and some great center play. And we've been happy with Ed and William and then John Dorno. So right now, I like our guys up front. We're much better than we were in the beginning of the season. And I think we're getting better technically and fundamentally. So, and there's a lot of mojo in that room right now, a lot of confidence. I think the offensive team has a lot of confidence in them. Drake does. And I think they have a lot of confidence in themselves with regards to needing to get the job done. So we're in a good place there right now.
Phil, any particular reason that Omarion didn't get in Saturday? I mean, I think it was Elijah and Drake were the only guys who carried the ball for you.
No, there were some situational things that really, we needed DJ Jones for. And then, as I said, he had that huge play on third down that kept an important drive alive. And Elijah was hot. And I've said, when a guy's hot, we're going to let him roll. And we kept waiting for him to show some fatigue and be tired, and he didn't get tired. He's been waiting for this opportunity a long time, right, to play. And I think he was going to make sure that, he'll be tired after the game, but it wasn't going to be in between the whistles. And so as long as he kept playing well and he's protecting well, we played. But that has nothing to do with anything Omarion did. I think Omarion's the next guy in there to run the ball for us. And we feel the same way about George. So I think situation, I think the specific talent that each running back gives us all kind of dictates who else will rotate in and play outside of Elijah and DJ right now.
How much freedom does Drake or even Corey Gaynor on protections have to change something there? Or is it all checked with you?
So that's a pretty cool situation right there, because Corey and Drake have a fantastic relationship. And they spend a lot of time together talking ball, and they actually spend time together away from football. So they have a great personal relationship, and I think that lends to their communication in the game. At the end of the day, Drake has the final say, because he needs to know who potentially could be coming free from a protection standpoint. But the two of them are on the same page. A couple times a week, we'll sit down and go through all the protections with the centers, the running backs, and the quarterbacks. Right, and we always do, and then we always do that on game day morning also. So it's a part of our routine and getting ready. I liken it to why I think the relationship between myself and our starting quarterback is so important. Just when we communicate well, when you can finish each other's sentences, when you can read minds, because you just spend so much time together, it really lends to how we get along and communicate in the game. And I think the same is true for the quarterbacks and the centers. And fortunately for us right now, we have that. And Brian Anderson was he was great communicating with last year. So we've got two guys right now that really know how to call everything. And I think they have a good relationship with our quarterback. So we're in a good spot there.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
See you Saturday.